Babies in a Business, a podcast about business marketing, growth strategy, staff clients, babies, and marriage. I'm Christina. This is Peter. We're founders and leaders of CIPR Communication, and we are still talking PR. And what I'll say before we begin is I feel like we had a highly productive morning as parents together.
I guess so. I was just thinking as you were doing that introduction, when are we going to talk about babies and marriage? Maybe when we're having a bad babies and marriage day. No, I don't think so.
A bad marriage. Oh my God. I feel like
No.
you will know because I have canceled all podcast recordings. No, I just feel like, okay, a bit of context because we obviously pre-record these, but it's spring break over here and our kids are in kids club, which is kind of, a little bit of fun for them to have during the day so we can still get some work done. And kids are up quite early this morning, but I kind of kept plugging away. You were playing a riveting game of Paw Patrol, I heard.
It was wonderful.
Then I feel like we went into, you started getting breakfast. I was making lunches. We were, anyways, it was just a nice, easy flow. It was great.
Yeah, I had a terrible sleep last night. I've been up since 2:30 in the morning, and I actually find though that I'm very productive in the mornings on those days where I have a bad sleep. So maybe that played into it a little bit.
Oh boy.
Anywho, today we are talking, continuing our series on public relations and media relations in 2021, and today we're going to cover the topic of owned versus paid versus
earned.
Earned. So earned media, paid media, and owned media, because those are the three sort of primary types of media types, I guess, for lack of better terms. So why don't we start off with some definitions, because Christina loves to have things fully defined before we go.
It's true. I do love a good definition, but I think important as we continue this series to kind of talk about the differing pieces, because I think it plays in, and we talked last time about strategy, and I think as you're continuing to outline your strategy, your public relations strategy should have a section for earned, owned, and paid. So I have a couple of definitions to share that I thought were interesting. So this first one is kind of encompasses everything. So earned media is publicity. That's a hard one for me. Publicity or exposure gained from methods other than paid advertising. Okay, so there's your two definitions of earned and paid. If owned media sites are the destination, then earned media is the vehicle that helps people get there.
Okay.
I really like that one. So, in past podcasts, we've talked about like your website being your home.
Yeah.
And by, having a press release or an article in a newspaper, or social media or a billboard, all of those are directions to get home. So I really like this kind of concept of, if owned media sites are your destination or your home, earned media is a vehicle in which you can drive and get people there.
Interesting.
I'd also argue paid media gets you over to your owned media as well, but
you just have to pay for it.
Yeah. You just have to pay for it, which is, interesting.
And really, let's be honest, earned media, you also somewhat have to pay for, because it doesn't just happen by itself.
That's true. You're paying for a PR firm potentially, or wire distribution. But okay, to kind of break it down a little less analogy based. So owned media is when you leverage a channel that you create or control. So this could be your own blog, it could be a website, it could be your Facebook page or your YouTube channel. This right here, what you and I are doing, is owned media.
Mm-hmm. We own this.
We own this, people. So you are here listening to us. So even though you strictly don't own something like iTunes, where people might be tuning in from, or Spotify, we do control the content that we are putting onto it. And if it got a little crazy and, played outside the terms and conditions of the site, sure, they could yank it and pull it off. But, we are owning this message. Nobody has told us what to do, which maybe is a bad thing, but here we are. Earned media is when customers, this is going to be interesting for you. Earned media is when customers, the press, and the public share your content, talk about your brand through word of mouth, or otherwise discuss your brand. So, in other words, mentions are earned,
Hmm.
meaning they're voluntarily given by others. So, I like this from a press release standpoint and like media coverage. So, if Christina, the journalist, gets your pitch and she decides to publish an article in the newspaper about it, that is earned media. But
You
if
know what I like about that article, that definition too, is that it could be then applied to social media as well, right?
well,
So,
totally, or like like I was gonna say, like Christina, the influencer,
mhm.
might, right? So we, deal with lots of influencers. We talked to Lemons for Days a bunch of episodes ago, but there's obviously paid opportunities with influencers, but there also is earned. Like you watch a lot of, if you slide through your Instagram stories, a lot of people are who go like, this isn't sponsored, I just really love this brand, or
Mhm.
this isn't sponsored, this is just something that I use every day that makes my life easier.
Right.
And then I think earned, likening it back to what we talked about on the tourism side and creating a community of champions, it's that word of mouth, right? So earned media is really, Peter's dropping things over there. He just loves my points. Earned media could be that too, like just the public, leaving a comment on a social media channel, a review on your Google My Business,
Hmm.
telling their neighbor. Like, I really love this kind of all-encompassing
Hmm.
something you have done to earn people, public media saying something about you.
Yeah. No, I
Hopefully,
really like that because it really broadens things a lot. It really makes me think about like all of the different ways that we support our clients and help our clients, and like the value, like you said, even like something like somebody leaving a review on your Google listing or your Facebook page or whatever, like that's an earned media piece, like for
yeah.
sure, right? And that's valuable, right?
Yeah, I mean, we took our kids to this new Muay Thai boxing studio on Monday, and I said to the guy after, like, "Oh my gosh, this is great! You're brand new. What can I do to help get the word out? I'm a part of this community moms group. I'll put it on there." And he's like, "That's great. That would be great. But could you also leave me a Google review too, so that when people are searching?" And to me, it's like, okay, now he's got two pieces of earned media from me. I've left a
Right.
review, which I've already done, and I plan to kind of share a photo or something on the Bonus Moms group about it. So, boom, he's hit two pieces of earned media.
Hmm.
And then finally, paid. Earned media is my favorite though. Paid is when you,
Hardest to get also.
it's true, maybe that's why I like a good game of cat and mouse. Paid media is when you pay to leverage a third party channel, such as sponsorships, advertising on third party sites. I mean, this is everything from sponsored content, advertorials, paying for an influencer. Yeah, but really, the way you slice and dice it, I mean, it is advertising. Um, it is marketing, but I think that there are interesting ways in 2021 where it still is public relations and looks and feels like media coverage, or looks and feels a little bit like earned media, but is actually paid.
Yeah.
So those
You
are
know what I really like about specifically the definition of earned media too is that it also can encompass SEO. Because really like SEO is all about, so the way search engines work is essentially they want to give their clients, who are the people putting in the search inquiries, the best information that answers their question. And in order to show up high on a search engine, you need to have authority. And it's sort of like you need to like earn your way up there, right? So really the concept, that's really kind of really just blowing my mind, if I'm going to be honest with you, in terms of rethinking kind of how we talk about a lot of the things we do, and what sort of maybe fits into PR versus paid, or earned versus paid, because like, you could get people to your website through Google ads or Facebook ads, but also by getting, number one on Google, through, earning your way up there, or through media, traditional, or through influencers, or through whatever, right? So
I feel like we should just end now. I've blown your mind.
Mind blown.
Over.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So I want to talk a little bit about owned media, because I think owned media is pretty important, and I think it's kind of in today's marketing and communications environment. Um, I think it's really your obligation as a company to really do everything you possibly can on the owned media side. That's really where you control the message and you have the most ability to do the most. And so again, back to SEO, but just sort of generally speaking, let's just say for you're going to put out a press release. That press release needs to live on your website, and that press release should have photos with it on your website, and maybe some video and some rich content or some multimedia content, so that when you actually push and when you push it out to media through sort of a press release, or like through the formal channels that you would through PR, that makes it easy for the media then to take your story and to be able to get all the information they need, get the photos, get the videos, whatever they need to build their story. You're just making their job easier. And it's really important to be able to do that. But in addition to that, is if you don't get the media to necessarily pick up your story, at the very least, you're telling your story on your website in the way that you want, in the richest way possible. And again, if you're now taking marketing and adding that to the mix and your SEO, potentially you can actually generate traffic to your website through those types of ways as well. So really, it's a really kind of a fundamental thing. And I think companies maybe didn't do this as much before, but now that the worlds of marketing and PR are really becoming kind of one and the same, to me, that's a really important place to start. And really, you need to tell your own story on your own website is really kind of the main message there, right?
Yeah, I think the piece that I would like to dig into, like I think owned media is so important. It's actually part of our questionnaire as an agency. So when we take someone in, our intake form, I guess for lack of a better word, talks about, do you have someone to get this up on your website? Do you need social media suggested posts? Do you, right, like that, how can we do you have a newsletter that this can go in? Like, how many owned channels do you have that we can leverage? Like, it's so important. I think the big missed opportunity is paid, because I think people still have this really adverse reaction to paid. Like, I would even argue, if we're talking marketing and like a PPC, like a Google search engine marketing, so those paid things, I think most people at this point in time in 2021 understand that that's a necessary, using air quotes, evil. You need it, especially if your SEO is non-existent and you need to start ranking. That's a great kind of short-term game, but also a great long-term game too. But I think some people still kind of go, oh, well, I don't want that. And it's like, well, you need that. Yeah. And same with paid. Like, people still have this really adverse reaction to like, oh, well, like, I'm not a snake oil salesman. I don't need to pay for a spot on radio at 8 a.m. on a Saturday to sell my product. I'm legit and I can do this. And it's like, paid media is so cool now. There are so many different things you can do. So again, I liken this back to some of our value of tourism stuff. Look up Love in the Loops on iTunes or Spotify after this episode, and you'll see a series of, I think there's like 70 episodes all about tourism advocacy. And so this was an initiative by Tourism Kamloops. It was I co-hosted the podcast with Jason Hewlett out of NL Radio, and Tourism Kamloops paid NL Radio for this spot. And it was basically 15-minute interviews every Saturday morning, talking to really cool folks in the tourism space. I'm making these connections between the community and tourism and a thriving tourism economy. And it was fun, and it was so well listened to. They ended up leveraging it through owned media on channels like this one, but also on their website and through social media. And so they really leveraged the crap out of it. But it was a paid media spot. And nobody ever asked that.
Right. Yeah. And the consumer wouldn't really know. They would just think it's a radio spot or some whatever segment on the radio. And
totally. And you have Jason, the journalist, the the on-air personality from NL that's doing this. Like, that was paid media, and it was really cool. It was a great investment in public relations. It got them super far, great goodwill with their stakeholders because all their stakeholders were featured. But like paid media is so different, I think, than what people think paid media was 10 years ago. Oh, that piece in the newspaper that everybody could tell is an ad because it
Right.
has funny text or font. And it's like, if you're working with the right agency, but also the right media outlets, there are so many cool things that can be done that allow you to create really cool content that you can then leverage on owned. And I think when you think about earned media, yes, you can leverage it on your own channels, but it only goes so far, right? A news release only goes so far. Your coverage, right? If you get 5 articles written, it only goes so far. But your paid media, if you do it right, it can just like grow exponentially and be this kind of continued source of really great content. It's just a matter of being innovative. And what's really awesome is all these media companies are willing to be really innovative.
Yeah, exactly. Just bring the ideas to them and they're all willing to come to the table, right? And I think, some of what we've been talking about a lot internally is sort of a shift in terms of our agency, more towards a paid media first kind of approach. Although I guess I would sort of caveat that with it's got to be an own media first. Like, so obviously you need to do some things on your own website first, but really in terms of like, if you do paid media first and you come up with some really creative paid media approaches, I think that gives you opportunities to then generate more earned media as well, right, from those pieces, possibly. And so, I guess we're at a time now where media just isn't willing to give their shirts away for free anymore. And I don't blame them, right? I mean, the industry's been gutted and it's because they've been giving it away for free for decades and decades and decades and getting nothing in return, right? So unfortunately, it was so good for so long and things only last good things only last for so long, right? And so you need to be thinking about your paid media budget first, and earned media really becomes then some icing on top of the cake kind of thing, that you might be able to get because you've done a good job and you've been consistent, which is also important, and you've done it over time, because one-offs also aren't really effective.
Yeah, I want to share. Peter, this is a bit of a teaser for you because I've been working on a little PR sheet internally for our use, but I want to end on the benefits and challenges of each. So feel free to jump in. These PR, I'm warning everyone, these PR episodes are a bit long, but clearly Peter and I like digging into PR. So owned media, benefits, control, cost efficiency, right? Because it's you, it's your team. Longevity, right? Your own media lives on as long as you want it to. Versatility, right? You're putting it on everything, everywhere. Like this podcast series is on YouTube. It exists as audio. It's blogs. It's social. It's all the things, and it can reach a variety of different audiences based on that. Benefits of paid, immediacy. Right? If you call today, you can, right? Like you guys last week got a post media paid opportunity done for a
48 hours.
48 hours, right? Yeah. So it was up and gone. Scalability. So what I just talked about, right? Not just one podcast, but 75 later. Control, right? So you still have that control on the paid media side. I like to say paid media is about partnership.
Yeah.
There's another party involved, but now all of a sudden you still have that same control. Earned media, there's a huge credibility piece. Somebody else is saying it. So whether that's a journalist writing an article or Christina leaving a review or writing a post, there's credibility because you're not tooting your own horn anymore. Somebody else is for you. It plays a really key role in sales because of that.
Right.
And it is transparent, right? So, the review from me might say how wonderful and great it is and it's 5-star, but there might also be the caveat in there that's like, you need to bring your own boxing gloves or something, right? So that real transparent piece. Challenges of all of them, because we don't want to be one-sided. Owned media, this is the flip side. So potentially because it's your own media channels, people will think it's biased and maybe not trust it as much as they would coming from someone else. It takes time to scale it. Obviously, if you're a smaller business or you haven't been around long enough, your web traffic, your whatever is not going to be the same. Just like us, you know, maybe 1 million people listen to our podcast now, but on day one, only potentially our friends did.
Yeah.
Paid media, the challenge is clutter, right? There's a lot of paid media happening right now. So, you know, you have to be innovative and clutter bust a bit. There's declining response rates. So I think this is something that, you know, as you think about paid media, really try to manage those expectations around what are we expecting from this? Is this about driving traffic? What are the metrics? What are the measurables? Is this resulting in a phone call? Probably not, but is it resulting in brand awareness? And then earned media challenges, total lack of control. You got no idea, right? The Muay Thai place said, okay, leave me a review. That guy had met me for all of 15 minutes. Who knows what I was going to do. He said, write me a review. I seemed friendly enough and excited enough about it. And also very hard to scale your earned media. It's completely out of your hands. Obviously, you can leverage it on your own media channels, but yeah.
And it's the most difficult. Like it's, you know, there's no guarantees you're going to get any earned media on any story anytime. Literally, you could have the best story in the world, but then the president of the United States could get murdered and it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like timing. Well, you know what I mean? But like we've had situations where we've had great stories and then some huge incident happened in the world and like nobody's paying attention because there's this big thing happening, right? And that's, you can't control that at all. And it can be frustrating. So
there you have it.
Just one quick
I got the last word for once.
All right. Last word.
Go ahead.
Okay, one quick story. I watched a show yesterday called The Last Blockbuster. And I was just thinking about it when you were talking from an earned media perspective, because literally, and this is an example of good earned media because they were the last Blockbuster store, the video rental store in America. And that's a story that people are interested in, right? It's like, oh my God, it's like, you know, people were like, I haven't thought about Blockbuster for 20 years. There's still a store that exists. Like, oh my God, right? And this lady did like over 500 interviews, had Ellen, had you name it. And it really helped their business a lot until they had to shut down anyways. But anyway, sort of a small funny story about earned media, but
there you go. Find it on Netflix.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next episode, we are joined by none other than Mr. Mario Tanaguzzi. Who, if you are from Calgary or the Calgary area, you will have known that name for a long time when it comes to the Herald and Post Media and all the things. So I'm excited. And he's probably going to talk to us about owned, earned, paid too.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Follow along. Make sure that you're following the podcast on iTunes and Spotify.